Parakam, namaskaram, namaste, salam, sabana, salutations. Now, this discussion, this comment is coming from the previous comment where I posted about the lady who was talking about Indian employers being the worst to work for, yada, yada, yada. And another Indian lady, Sadia, saying, yes, I'm Indian. And I agree. And here's another Indian here saying, I'm Indian. So in this post, they say, I'm Indian. I've seen other people do it, but I'm not like that. You see, that's just my argument that I'm fighting with you guys. You can't say you agree with those people that Indian people are racist and then you extricate yourself and say, no, it's the other Indians, not me. You see, that's where I have an issue. It's the generalization. And you're doing the same thing. You said, I am Indian and I've seen Indian people even have separate plate and cup and give their house help leftovers. I have seen it for myself. Of course you've seen it for yourself. You've probably done it yourself. Your grandmother, grandfather, great-granny. That's why you've seen it in your own. And you see these things in your own family circle. You don't see it in outside people's homes. You see it in your own family circle because you're there with them. So you are equally as guilty if you say we are. But let me, for especially my African brethren, explain this. This practice, you see, Indians in general, they have separate utensils for the domestic helpers and or the scab laborer that they get to hire to clean the garden, pack some stuff or do building or whatever it is. Now, this practice is seen to be as racist. And Indians being racist towards African people. Let me educate you West Ham special, especially this West Ham special. Yeah. Indian people in general by nature are very, very conscious about cleanliness, hygiene, personal hygiene, etc. Even when Indians arrived as slaves and lived in shacks in poor conditions, they took pride in bathing, dressing, personal hygiene, keeping themselves and their surroundings well groomed, well maintained. Your racist narrative is blown out the water by the fact that in many Indian homes, family members themselves have separate utensils. I know of instances that exist where a mother will never allow her own child, the one she gave birth to and grew up, who's now 25, 26, 30 years old, she will never allow that child to drink from her cup. Now, is she being racist towards her own child? A female friend of mine, I know her for over 30 years, one of my best friends, will never drink from the same cup as me or the same straw. Why? She might get achro in her mouth. Sore, it's called a sore. And this is from my best friend. Now, is she being racist towards me? Oh, no. She's simply looking after her own personal hygiene and health. It's a personal choice. So Indian people in general, especially old folks, set in their ways, keep separate utensils for their staff, their scab labor, domestic workers, etc. Many who complain about this practice have never been employers themselves. Maybe when they employ a person to serve as a domestic or a laborer, put up a wall, mix cement, they too might adopt the same pattern of behavior. Let me ask my African brothers and sisters and even Indian people who say this is a racist behavior. If you employ a scab laborer from the street, shopping center, someone you pick up to build your wall or sweep your yard or whatever it is, clean your garden, will you let that person come into your home, sit in your kitchen, sit in your lounge, eat from your own utensils? Number one. Number two, will you allow that person to use your own personal toilet, your toilet that you use, that your wife uses, that your daughter uses, that your mother uses, that your granny uses? Will you allow that person to use, yeah? Well, if you answered no to any of those two, does that make you a racist then, necessarily? Let me tell you a story about Bongani Bingwa. He's on Carte Blanche, I think, 702 presenter. He was discussing the same racist behavior of separate utensils. And lo and behold, on a radio show, an African listener calls in and tells Bongani that he does not invite his gardener into his home and has separate utensils. Bongani was livid. Bongani could just, over the radio, could be fuming. He said, what? How can you be so racist? How can... And the guy responded, he said, I'm not racist. I picked the guy from the street. He's dirty, he's disheveled, he smells, he has not had a bath in how many days? Obviously, because he's living in a location. His nails are long and dirty. I'm not going to invite him into my home, says this guy. I'm not going to let him eat from my plate and let him use my toilet my wife uses. He says, no ways. You see, but Bongani was livid. Could not believe it coming from a black man. Yeah, but that was his real story. He's choosing his health and his health of his family over the person that he's employing. Now, as for leftovers, I've seen Indian people, they give leftovers to their staff. Now, let me just make this clear. Supply of food to your employee is not, you're not obligated to supply food to your employee, whether it's a domestic, whether it's a gardener. I've never seen a contract where you're obligated to supply food. In many cases, it's a perk, it's not an obligation. So firstly, if you are receiving food and you don't have food and you're at work hungry and you haven't carried lunch, firstly, be grateful you're getting something to eat. That's my personal opinion. Be grateful that your employer is providing you with something to eat, that you couldn't afford to bring lunch and come to work. You can't afford to buy lunch or supper, and lunch and supper is being provided. Be grateful. Be appreciative. If you don't appreciate yesterday's food, you can say, no, I don't want that food. I'll bring my own food. Simple. You don't have to take yesterday's food. If you are taking yesterday's food, that means you don't have any meal for yourself. You are going to be hungry. They're giving you yesterday's food. Let me talk about yesterday's food. You see, we Charos, let me tell you guys, especially my African brothers and sisters, maybe white people, colored people. You see, we Charos, our fridges are full of containers. You know what's in a container? Food, leftover food that we eat. I can eat food 2 to 3 days old. In fact, try eating fish curry the next day. It's the best damn thing. So if I give fish curry to an employee the next day, I'm giving him the best meal. But according to you, I'm being racist because I'm giving you leftover food. You see? There's nothing wrong with the food. We keep food, we eat the food, that's food. If you don't like leftover food, you don't take your own lunch and go to work, take your own sandwich and feed yourself. Don't be freaking ungrateful that your employer, whoever it is providing you with something to eat. That is not food for dogs, it's not food gone off. If they are giving you food that's gone off, you just say no. Simple as that. And they're not obligated to give you a meal. You see? Now you know something. Knowledge is power.